Last week we worked with a directed healing method. And that's the one I used last week that I told you about on that woman's shoulder. Did anybody have any questions about that, if you thought about that? Or how about the distance healing? Has anybody been doing that on a regular basis? So you want to share anything? Have you gotten any feedback on that, Beth?
One thing I realized, and I don't know what this says about me, but I'm actually finding it a little easier to do distant healing on people that I don't know quite as well. I don't know what that is, yeah.
Well, it's that you're not involved in the personality of it. You don't have any hope, any emotional connection to them. You hope they get better, but you don't have that emotional connection.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
God,
true.
if they don't get better, I'm going to be a failure type of thing. So that's what the difference is.
I did realize that in the process.
So have you had any feedback on the curative effect of anything?
Yeah, my mom was one that I was sending to, and I didn't tell her I was sending or anything, but I did get positive feedback from her. She was having a cold, and she's getting into early stages of dementia, so I was seeing the white light around the head and bringing in her angels and spirit guides. And yeah, I've had some positive, because I'm in touch with her like every other day or every day, and I've noticed a little sharper, and she had a cold when I started it. And she was over a cold in like 2 days. I was like, can you send to me? So that was good. And my one cat I did not have as much luck with. And I actually saw her when I was doing it. She turned her little head, and I saw her pink little nose go up in the air like, I'll think about it. I didn't have much luck with that so far.
Yeah, I remember reading something somewhere. They were doing the research, and they said that one of the things they had seen improvement in people with Alzheimer's and dementia was from religious or spiritual healing, tended to help. So that they had actually recorded an observed improvement over a group of people with Anybody else want to share something with their distance healing?
We had a friend of mine that had hip replacement. He's up in New York, and both of us kind of worked on that. And he seemed to be doing pretty good and came out of it well and healing well.
Good.
And of course, just recently, was included Beryl in on the list because I know she was having some trouble.
Florence.
Florence, the last time I saw Florence, she was doing pretty good. So, yeah, but I was with Beryl the day before, and you could tell that she just was pushing herself too much, and her back was bothering her. And I said, Beryl, you can do this some other day. Don't push yourself anymore. Go home and take it easy. Then I got the message from the IM that we were in healing. And I talked to Jim, and he said that she was doing better.
Good. Anybody else have any reportable effects?
I wasn't in the class, so didn't do it.
What we're talking about, as I said, that distance healing is one of the best ways to develop healing.
Oh, I've been doing it as a Reiki master for 30 years, and I love this healing. But finish what were you saying?
What I said was that you had to take 3 names of people that you don't directly know, just people that talk to you about problems they need help with. You put them on a list and work with them. And I gave a method for doing that in the first class: the breathing, the visualization and stuff. It's a specific method. I'm just curious if anybody had any successes with it. Okay, good.
Do I know what any feedback is like?
What's that?
I was doing it with my mother, for my mother, and,
I
but I wasn't
missed the
getting.
directly part, not having it, some of you directly now.
And, yeah,
I'll have to
and
switch
she's
them.
way up in New York, and she just off, she doesn't say anything. I don't get any positive feedback, but I think it works. I just, she's not, I didn't tell her or anything.
That's what I said, don't tell them.
Yeah, I didn't tell her.
Yeah, I've been doing some distancing, and I've been having some pretty good results, but most of the people that I know that send me their names and say, put us on there. So I know them before we get started. With the color chart that I sent out on the lesson, there was some interest. I gave that out in personal development class too, but we never worked with it very much. That's the colors of the chakra from lower to higher in the method that we went over last week, the directed healing method. We'll do a little bit of that directed healing method again, and then we'll move into an actual contact healing.
Is that where cheating?
So what,
Did you not get one?
It's on the
Oh, it's on email, she didn't print it out. Do you have extra? Oh, good, is this extra? Thank you.
I might have one in my briefcase.
Great, thank you.
Can I peek at yours with
Oh.
people going over it? Thank you.
If you look at the colors from
My glasses, I can see.
from left to right, the first one on the left is the red, correct? I don't have it in front of me.
Yes.
And as you go to the right, it goes from the chakras lower to higher. And that's what we worked with last week, was the directed healing method of diagnosis of the colors. And that color healing chart I gave out is kind of a companion to this, the chart for the different conditions and things that we used last week. So when we're doing the directed healing, if somebody says, I don't think they, I don't see that, you guys have that, you've got the chart right there. That's used with the one that I sent out on the email. If somebody says that they've got, if you're working with somebody and they say they're having issues and you narrow it down to a center, the color that's with that center should match the color that's on that chart. So it's just more information for you to be able to look at. And if somebody says, well, I'm having troubles, and you narrow it down to center 2, then as you're working the colors from the lower chakra up, pause on the second center and visualize what I said last week was like a Dixie cone shape of a cup. You know, the old Dixie drinking cups that have a pointed bottom on it. It's like a cone shape. You visualize a shape like that with a point towards the person, the mouth away towards your hand. And you visualize the color of that cone, the color of that center. And you try to visualize it getting brighter and clearer as you work with it, adding a condition to it. And the chart has what it says, the diagnosis chart has a complementary color on it. And what that is when you see another color in that, like let's say the color of the chakra you're looking with is yellow, and you're visualizing it getting stronger. When you first see it, it's going to seem like it's not that strong of a shape. And you visually begin to try to project it brighter. This is a directed healing method where you work directly with a specific condition. And as that color gets brighter, sometimes you'll see, if you do repetitive sessions, you'll see another color within it. That means that it's changing, the condition is changing. So that's an indication that what you're doing is having an effect, a correct effect. So that's what complementary color means. So this chart and the one that has all the different conditions on it, the chakra aura chart with all the oils and the crystals and stuff like that's kind of interesting because it's a very comprehensive chart about all the different positive and negative emotions. It gives you essential oils. It gives you different crystals. And I'm going to say something about the colors and the crystals and the oils. These are things that create a vibrational rate in your mind and in the mind of the person you're working with. If you visualize the color yellow, if you took a yellow light and shined it on them, it's not going to do anything to them, the colored yellow light. If they wear yellow clothes, it's not going to do much for them other than show them that they need the color yellow. What you do when you visualize the color yellow is your mind vibrates at a certain vibrational rate, and it brings in a specific healing energy by thinking that color. And the spirit that you're working with moves on that vibrational rate, moves with that directed type of energy to that area. So you're actually doing a directed healing for a specific known condition rather than an overall body, mind, spirit healing, which is the second type we use today. So directed healing is that's what you do. If you want to use the essential oils or the crystals that are mentioned on that chart, just realize again that these are things that activate a thought process within the person. It's not that they can't. It's not the actual oil or crystal itself. It activates an energy within the person that creates that healing energy within them. So it's not, again, it's not them having to have that crystal to be healed or that mineral to be healed or that fragrance to be healed. It causes an overall body reaction within them that generates an internal healing process for themselves from their own body healing reserves. And each one of those is specific to that type of vibration, just like the color is. So again, I don't want people to get locked into systems or outer symbology or ritual too much, other than to activate that part of the person. So if you I don't know which one of the minerals it's listed there. Bodies are mineral chart.
Crystal mineral combination.
What does one of them say?
Any one of them?
Yeah.
For the root base, it's garnet, ruby, hematite,
Okay.
pyrite.
It's kind of funny because I'm a red person and my birthstone's a garnet, so it's kind of funny. But again, if you give a person, I wouldn't, unless you have a lot of inexpensive garnets, I wouldn't suggest giving everybody that comes to you a garnet that has an issue with that area. But if they hold the garnet, it will cause them to think a certain, they will have a certain reaction. We all have reactions when we put stones in our hands, a natural reaction. And the different stones cause different specific reactions within a person, people. They're like the old crystal radio sets. Remember those? The hand radio sets and the crystal radio sets. They brought in specific vibrational rates according to the matrix of the crystal. And stones and crystals and that are the same way. They bring in a specific vibrational rate due to the matrix of the stone itself. It amplifies an energy. It doesn't generate any energy of its own. It amplifies an energy when it feels it or draws it to it. So if a person has a low energy rate that a garnet can help, it amplifies that energy that's within the person rather than having an inherent stored energy source within the stone itself. It's an amplifier more than a storage device. So, just remember that if you choose to work with that level of work. And it's nice. I mean, I think stone and crystals are nice. I like holding them. I find the theory of what they do specific is interesting, but I don't really use that in my practice. But again, if you choose to, that's how I want you to remember it. It amplifies the natural energy of the body in a specific fashion. It's not like a battery where it stores that energy within it.
Would you use it to help somebody attune to the healing during the guided meditation?
Yes, you could. If somebody says that they got a problem and you narrow it down through that chart that Brent's holding, you can then have them hold a stone of that center, and it will definitely help. It will help. It can't hurt. It can definitely aid I mean, if that's what you're drawn to, a lot of shamanistic people use those, which is great. A lot of people are very much drawn to that
Well, I was
philosophy.
thinking both the mineral and, say, the aroma of the essential oil
Right,
might help
right.
them attune to that area where you're going to be
I
working.
think it would, because you have aromatherapy, which uses a similar process, and minerals, like I said, shamanistic people use all the time, so you'd be combining. It's like a friend of mine told me that was teaching me homeopathy, and when I asked him, I thought, he was saying, he's a traditional homeopath. I said, so you don't believe in anything else? He said, let me tell you how it is with illnesses. You load all your guns and you shoot them all at once. You don't put them all, you don't just focus on one thing. He said, something's going to hit something if you load all your guns and shoot them all at once. So that's what I'm going to tell you about that. Whatever you're inspired to do, this is information for you to use, and you pick the tools that you want to use. I just teach you the attunement, how to attune, and then what you choose to bring in, again, is personalizing your practice. People are drawn to different things, and different people use different parts of this, so I'm just trying to give you a lot of different guns to shoot, so to speak.
And the essential oils you would anoint on the chakra, or how do you use those?
I don't use them.
Oh, okay.
However you're inspired to use them.
Okay.
I would tend not to put them near the nose. And if I use them, I'd use them very diluted or very sparingly, so that people don't have a reaction to it.
Mhm.
You never put them on cats. You can kill a cat by putting essential oils on them. If you dilute them, diffuse them in the air, it's okay, not every day, but their liver doesn't know how to metabolize it, so you can
Oh.
actually kill a cat. Aspirin, chocolate, and essential oils
Wow.
can kill a cat.
So with the essential oils, I think just a mild fragrance, you might put it in a bowl or something, and of
Put it in a
warm
room.
water or something like something that would be aromatic.
Make sure nobody's allergic first.
You could let them try it, you could open it up and say, are you okay with this?
that's
Just
good.
test the waters, and if if it's too strong for them, then put it, in a bowl of hot water or steaming water or something like that. It can be like an aromatic thing. But the positive and negative qualities are interesting too that it gives there. When you're out of balance with it, that's almost like another chart, like the healing chart that I gave. I don't know if they coincide or agree or not. Compare what the center one on this says, the disharmony created would cause for that center.
Mhm.
If they match or if they correlate. Do they seem to correlate? Okay.
Yeah, pretty
That's
much.
good, because they come from two different disciplines, so that's good to know. But the other one doesn't give the positive. The diagnosis chart doesn't give the positive, where the aura chakra chart does give positive and negative. So that's a good chart to use to tell if the curative effects taking place.
This is yellow.
And I find I pull out the chart, the healing technique chart, not the aura chart, but I use that in all my healing. People tend to really like that when they see something written. They see you using a hard system of some sort. It gives them a little confidence. It makes them relax a little bit. When they see you take a pad of paper and a pen, you're not going to just wave your hands over. But we got a little work to do before we get to the hand waving part. Hand waving is part of it, but we got a little bit to do before we get to there. And it gives them a whole different attitude about what you do. It makes them feel more connected to what you do. It gives them a little more focus, a little more knowing, a little more comfort with what you do when you do that kind of thing. And it's always, it's not required that they be relaxed, but it helps. It's nice for them to be relaxed with stuff.
We tend to make them more receptive.
Yeah, it can make them more physically receptive, but it really won't hit. What happens when they're in cooperation with it, it's, as an example, if somebody had a leg that they had favored and was using a cane with, if you do, if you have a curative effect with it, and they go back to using the cane and favoring that leg because it's a habit, they can actually cause that leg to be re-injured. So if they're on board with you mentally, they'll stop using the cane. They won't have the habit of using the cane. So that's where then being in agreement has an effect, not so much the curative effect, because I've worked with, people have to be responsible for what they do. So you're going to, when you move into this as a full effort, and it doesn't matter if you hang a shingle out or you just have people that know to call you, you're going to get all types of cases. It's going to be quite a walk when you get involved with this. So be prepared for that, and don't feel responsible for what goes on. Don't feel responsible for making somebody change their mind. Have a system like we're talking about. That's another thing the system does, is it keeps you on task. It doesn't get you off task. You can really easily get off a task with these people because they're very, very needful. It tugs at your heartstrings of compassion, and you feel sometimes like going all in to help this person. That's the wrong thing to do. You can't go all in emotionally. You can go all in with your training, with your skill, with your craft, with your attunement. But you go in all in emotionally with these people, and you're going to have a hard way to go, because you can't make them be so different than the person that they are. They're going to continue to be who they are. Some people have the illnesses they have because of who they are. And until they do the work to change that illness potential is still going to be there. And they're going to want you to change them. They're going to want you to fix them and their attitudes, and that's not what you do. So this system will also keep you on task for what your limit of responsibility is. And that's a very important thing to know when you begin working with very ill people, is to know what the limit of your responsibility is. Don't move them into your house. Don't start making sure that they got 3 meals a day. You'll never make it if you do that. I mean, offer them a meal if they're hungry when they come, but don't get involved with them personally, is what I'm trying to say. You can be involved with them, quote, professionally, and that's a little bit of a cold term to say professionally with healing, because you're very compassionate about what you do. But you have to have that line that you can draw. Otherwise, you're going to have these people, if they're local, on your door every day, wanting something done every hour of every day, some of them. You have to have that professional division of some sort so you can have a personal life. Otherwise, you won't have one. And, I have a separate phone that I use other than the phone that I carry for people to call, because I don't want to get calls at 11 or 12 o'clock at night. And that phone of mine takes calls at 11 or 12 o'clock at night. So you have to have some sort of division between your personal life and your mediumistic and healing life. Otherwise, you'll be run into the ground in the first 5 years. You won't make it past 5 years. So just a word of caution there. Stick to your system, stick to your level of responsibility, and understand what the limit of your responsibility is with this healing. The directed healing method, just as a review, it's where you image the chakras lower to higher. First, you take the chart and you talk to somebody about what their conditions are and what they would like to have you work on, and if they would like it. It takes a little bit of work with the chart to narrow it down, because some of it's pretty subjective, what's written there. And I have to apologize because like I said last week, I sat in a seminar in the Arthur Findlay College, and they discouraged it. They didn't give any written material, so I did my best to take notes and write it down as best as I could. And I can't hardly read my own handwriting half the time a week later, so I'm surprised I got as much down as I did. But the way that works is, let's say, on the first one, if somebody says on center one, if they're having trouble with the base of their spine, their legs, their feet, or their rectum, a lot of times hemorrhoids fall into this category. You ask them to go back 2 weeks to 2 months before the first time that they knew that condition. You know, you'll say, I want you to think back, the first time you knew that you had this problem, whether it's 10 years ago or 2 weeks ago. Go back to the first time you were aware of this condition. Now think of a specific event that could have happened at that time, with family, group, or tribal relationships. And what you say is, now all of us go through all of these eventualities to a minor or greater or lesser degree at all times in our lives, but this is something that would have consumed most of your thinking time during the day. Like if you had a family issue, it would be somebody that died, somebody that has a terminal illness. It could have been, problems with your children, something of that nature that really took a lot of your time and thought. And what that does is that causes a shock to the spiritual matrix of the body, which was formed prior to conception. The biological flesh grows over it. And there are certain points, just like the chakras in the body, there's certain points to the spiritual matrix that connect to the different parts of the biological body. And that's what these centers are. They correlate for healing purposes to when you're working with it. The energy that you direct in is at a chakra center, but the spiritual matrix that's become weakened is not necessarily at that point that you're working with. And an example is if somebody picks something up off the counter 1,000 times and they have a problem with one of their family members for several months or even years, finally that matrix gets weakened and they pick that same thing up off the table and they strain their back because of the weakness that was created by that matrix. It's not that that thought damaged the biological structure. It's that thought, repetitively thought so much to such a level of intensity, weakened the actual spiritual matrix of that area. That's why they talk about spiritual healing has to happen before the illness is completely cured, because it all stems from the spiritual. Now, I'm not talking about the divine creator spirit that's all knowing, all loving. And this is I said this before, where you have physical properties and you have spiritual properties that intertwine at a certain point in this world, in this dimension. Otherwise, they couldn't exist cohabitatively at the same time. So this is where the spiritual matrix meets the flesh, and it affects the flesh. So this person keeps thinking those thoughts, my son this, my daughter that, whatever it is, my mother died and I really feel guilty, or whatever it is, they keep thinking and thinking and thinking. And even if they get past it, put it in the back of their mind, they may have back problems for years before they finally come to see you. So you get them to rewind it to that point. And what you want to have them say is, I don't want you to think about the individual events within this. I don't want you to think about he said, she said, they said, I said. I want you to think of this as a total event in your life. Just like seeing a movie, and at the end of the movie you have a feeling about the movie. You have a feeling about this event, an overall feeling. I want you to concentrate on that as an overall event, not go back through and unwind each little thing that happened and put it into perspective, because sometimes that just can't be done. So you want them to think about the event almost as a total event and just begin to think a little softer about it. Find a way to relax a little bit the tension that that's creating with them. Just think a little softer about the whole event as a whole happening. And that begins to change the energy that they work with and the way the energy affects them. Just realizing that is what's causing the illness can cause them to go into a period of introspection and begin to change the overall feeling of the event. And again, you don't want to get them to think that they have to go back and forgive everybody or go to everybody and give them forgiveness. Just change how they feel about the total event, and it begins to change the energy that is affecting their illness. And also tell them that they don't have to do this to be cured of this illness. This is just a way for you to be involved in what's going on, is what I tell them. So you don't want them to think they're not going to get healed if they can't do what you're asking them to do. So it takes a little practice with this chart to get to working it right. And there's some things in there that are like tribal relationships. I always get a question, what's a tribal relationship? I said, well, that's kind of like a church, like, something that you're involved with that's very ritualistic oriented, that you're very involved with. That's what tribal relationships are to me. Or it could be, a VA club or a bike club or something like that where they have written, rules and guidelines and you subjected yourself to those and something's happened and, things like that. So it has to be an organized sense of something to be a tribal relationship. But yet, like I said, you have to kind of work with it and make a little sense out of it, put your own interpretation into it.
An HOA.
Yeah.
Two questions. Did you say that was the spiritual or the etheric matrix that was
Spiritual
damaged?
matrix.
Spiritual matrix, okay. This is more of a personal question, but I shocked my nervous system like 5 years ago, not on purpose, and it corresponded to, I used to take care of elephants in the zoo, and one of the elephants died like 24 hours before that. So, and I just came up with an elephant on my page, so I was showing you the spirit. But anyway, how do I know what chakra to balance?
The chart
with
says
that?
something about nervous system on it. It
But
does say.
the whole nervous system was.
Well, it talks about, there is one that says the nervous system.
Oh, yeah, mind's eye,
What is it?
Mind's eye.
mind's eye,
Okay.
And what does it
center
say?
6.
Okay, right, so that's, if you said you're, and people that are having epilepsy or having Alzheimer's or anything like that can be nervous system oriented. That's what I mean, you have to be able to sort it out. You have to work with it. It's not like, some of these things are very subjective, like I said, you have to just kind of use it as best you can when you work with these people. But it's a very effective chart. It really works well. I worked with one of the people last week and gave him a specific condition, and I got relief from it. And we worked the chart just like I'm explaining. And I used that chart on that woman I did last week, and it works. It doesn't, it may not appear to work 100% of the time, but it works a lot more than it doesn't. So it's back to load all your guns and shoot them all at once type of thing.
And do you do all the chakras and then just spend extra time on the third eye? Or when you work with people, would you go right to the third eye?
No, I work from the bottom up, just visualizing each one of them. Because sometimes you'll find another area, you'll sense another area that's a little weak, and then you'll work with it. Rarely is something a one source cause. Most of the time, there's something else in there that's working with it that they usually don't want to tell you or aren't aware of. So you will find another one of the centers most of the time that has, you'll just stop. When you work this method, you'll just know when to stop. You'll know the one that you diagnosed, but you'll also know that field will also feel in one or the other possibly. You just, oh, this one here too. And you use the same methodology of visualizing the Dixie cup. Each one of them you visualize like a Dixie cup, but the ones that are strong, you'll see them with a strong shape, a strong color, good, clean, iridescent color, not muddied or weak. So you just work with that, visualize that color. And that's all you have to do is just visualize that color, strong and iridescent when you find the weak spot. And again, you're focusing a specific thought, a specific type of healing energy to an exact point on that person. And that's what this directed method does. So let's go ahead and try that now with parents. 6, 9. So I'll do a demonstration first with one person, then I'll work with that person.